Hello and welcome to this short video on the basics of using Zoom for teaching online. My name's Gary Trowles from Harlow College. I'm going to walk you through the basic functions of using Zoom to teach an online group. So starting from the very basics here, how to set up a meeting. Once you've installed the Zoom application, you can open it and then click on Schedule to set up your class. In the top box there, just type in the title, the name of your class, and then set the date for that. So we'll say it's going to be 19th of January, and it'll be a 2 o'clock class for 2 hours. It's going to be every week, so I'm also going to click on this recurring meeting box here, put a tick into there. Then moving down the screen, your option here to have the waiting room on, I would advise to have it on. It limits who can get in. It allows you to let people in and see who's coming in. It also stops students from joining the meeting before you arrive, which is the key aspect around safeguarding. So I would always recommend having the waiting room on. Again, your choice, next controls down, is to have your video on when you join the meeting and your participants' video on. So that's my choice. I like to see who's coming into my meeting, so I want the cameras on as they join. Audio defaults to telephone and computer. You can leave that alone. I usually switch it to computer audio only because nobody's dialing in on the phone. Zoom then automatically generates an Outlook calendar entry for you. You can change that to Google or an iCalendar format. Then finally, clicking on advanced options, I also tick the box to allow participants to join at any time. So students who are late can still join. You have the option to mute participants on entry. I don't choose that, but it is an option. And another option there that is useful is to automatically record the meeting. So I'll only record generally a lesson if I know students are absent and they're going to be looking at it at a later time. But sometimes I do forget that. So having the automatic record on can be useful. When you're happy with all of that, click on the Save button down in the bottom right-hand corner, and Zoom will set that meeting up and also create an Outlook calendar entry for you automatically, which if I just go to my Outlook, you can see here. You can then use this to email that out to your students if you wish. Alternatively, if you just highlight the link here, you can copy and paste that and put that into your learning platform, whether that's Google Classrooms or Shobi or OneFile, whatever platform you use. Just copy and paste that to give access to your students. Okay, so that's scheduling a Zoom class. Now, if we go over to looking at the controls in Zoom, and I have a meeting already up and running here. And you can see I've got one student in there already, and I've got another one that's waiting to come in. So that's Ted, who's in the waiting room here. I can see that they've arrived in the waiting room. So I'll just click on Admit to allow Ted to come into the waiting room. There'll be a short delay while they connect to their audio. They'll just get a request on their screen to connect to audio, and then they should automatically come into the meeting. And there we go. You can see Ted has now joined us. So at the bottom of the screen, I'm going to work through all of the Zoom controls along the bottom here, which will appear on the screen on a menu bar when you move the mouse to the bottom of the screen. And I'm going to start with Breakout Rooms because that's probably one of the more useful functions that's within Zoom. So to launch Breakout Rooms, just bring the mouse down, click onto Breakout Rooms. And you've got three options with Breakout Rooms. The default is to assign automatically. Probably quite difficult to see on the camera, but it's defaulting to one breakout room, and that means I've got 2 participants per room. So I've got 2 people in the meeting, and they'll both go into the same room. So if I increase the number of rooms to 2, now you can see I've got 1 participant per room, and so Zoom will automatically calculate for you how many people you've got in each room as you increase the number of rooms. I'm not sure there's a limit on this. I've had something like 30 breakout rooms going with over 200 people in a meeting, so I don't think there's a limit, but there should be more than enough breakout rooms for any online teaching that you do. Now, so what Zoom will do is then it'll just randomly allocate numbers of students to however many rooms you've got. Every time you recreate the rooms, it'll the random selection will be different. So that's if you don't mind who goes into which room, who's working with who. Assign automatically is the best choice. I'm going to assign manually, so this is my second option here. There is also an option to let the participants choose which room they go in. For that, you really need to make sure the rooms are clearly named as to which room they want to go into. So I'm going to assign manually. So then I'll just click on create, and you can see it's given me 2 rooms, 1 and 2. You've got the option here to rename them. So I usually give them the name of the activity that's going to be going on in there. So we'll say that's going to be analog electronics going on in that room, and in this room it'll be digital electronics. There we go, there's my 2 rooms. So now I can assign my students to my rooms. So I've got an assign button here, click on that, and to the right you'll get a list of all the students in the meeting. So I'll put myself actually into the analog room, and I'll put Ted into the digital. So there we go. So we've got 1 student assigned to each room. When I'm happy with who is in each room, all I need then to do is to click on Open Rooms. And then what my participants will do is they'll receive an invite that's come up on their screen to join the rooms. They just need to accept that. You can see Ted has accepted. His invitation has now gone off to the digital electronics room. And then we'll just wait for, actually I sort of renamed that. That's Greg that you can see there. It's not myself. I don't have an identical, well, not quite identical twin brother. That's actually Greg that's sitting there. So we're just waiting for Greg to join the room. And then we should find that we're on our own in the main room. Greg is just getting some assistance there. And there we go. So now my students have gone off into the breakout rooms, and I'm now sitting on my own in the main room. The students have the ability, if they wish, to call me. They can call me from their breakout room, so I can go and join them, or I can choose to go and join them to see how they're getting on. Also, you can see have the option there to move students from one room into another room. Down at the very bottom here, I've got a button here where I can send a message to all the students, so I can click on that. This message will go to all of the breakout rooms. So I might ask them perhaps, how are you getting on with the task that I've given you? I can send that off and they can send me messages back. Or if I just want to check on progress, I can go in to join the rooms. So I'm just going to click on join here now, so I can join the analog electronics room. It's asked for confirmation, so yes, I do want to join. And then so I'm moving from the main room now into the analog electronics breakout room. So I'm here now with Greg. So I can have a discussion with this group of students, give them some more instructions, make sure that they're getting on okay, everything's happening as it should do. And then when I'm ready, I can leave the room. Now, this is where I most commonly make a mistake, quite a grave error that you can make here. You go down to the bottom right-hand corner, you can see there's a button there, leave room. So you click on leave room, 3 options come up. And for some reason, I'm always tempted to click on the top one, which is end meeting for all, which is a disaster really, because that closes down the whole meeting and throws all the students out of the meeting, and you have to start from scratch again. I can leave the meeting myself, so that would also not be great, because I've then left all the students in the meeting and I've left. So what you need is the bottom option, which is leave breakout room. So just be aware of that. Just take your time to make sure that you're just leaving the breakout room and not leaving the meeting or ending the meeting. When you leave the breakout room, it returns you back to the main room again. And we're now back into the main session again. So when we want to end the session, I usually give the students a warning. So I might say something like, please finish off now. And I'll send that out to the rooms, and then I'll close the rooms. Now, when you close the rooms, whether you can see it or not here, it says all breakout rooms will close in 54 seconds. So it gives them 1 minute before the rooms automatically close. Now that 60 seconds is the default time that Zoom uses from when you close the rooms to when the breakout rooms actually close. Now students do have the choice to leave the rooms early. So when they see this warning coming up that breakout rooms will close in 60 seconds, they can choose to leave and come straight back to the room if they're finished. If they've still got a little bit of work to do to finish off, they can wait till the last minute and then the rooms will automatically close. This default time can be changed as well. I think it can be changed anything from 10 seconds up to 60 seconds, but the default is for 60 seconds. So the rooms are now about to close, and we should see that Greg and Ted will now return back to the main room again. And here they come. So I can now, if I want, actually while we're here, we can look at these options. So this is options. This is one of the places that you can change how long the breakout rooms take to close down. So you can set the countdown timer, 60 seconds. Oh, it can actually go from anything from 10 seconds to 2 minutes, but it defaults to 60 seconds. If I recreate, then that means I can change the rooms. I can add a room if I've got more students or I want smaller groups. I can click on add a room. If I go back to recreate, I can then do an automatic assignment again, manual assignment, or so I can change the groupings if I want, or I can let participants choose which room they go into. So that's breakout rooms. Very, very useful feature for multiple classes or for where you've got a large group and you need to split them up into smaller breakout rooms for an activity. You do so also have the option to share a screen to all breakout rooms as well, and I'll show you where that is. So there we go. So that's breakout rooms. If we just move over one to the right, we've got reactions. This is typically, I would use that for students to respond. They have this same menu on their screen, and the reactions that you can get, they can raise their hand. So you need to establish some rules, some netiquette rules as to how students are going to use Zoom. And if you want them to raise their hand to ask a question, they've got that option. So that will come up on your screen. You've also got a tick and a cross. So that's a very, very quick student response approach that they can say yes or no, understand or don't understand, agree or disagree. The other ones here are going to say that you're going too fast or you're going too slow. I need to have a break. And you also got applause and a thumbs up there, which all student reactions that they can use at their end. Moving along, then we've got live transcripts, which is subtitles. Quite a good idea to have those on, increases accessibility for all students. So just select enable auto transcription. And then you will see that your voice is converted to text. It's generally extremely accurate. And so that just improves the accessibility for all students, that they're getting subtitles to your lesson. I believe that students do have the option at their end to turn that off if they don't need them. So our next box along is record. And if you hit the record button, you get two options, either to record on this computer or record to the cloud. No real preference here. If you record to the cloud, it goes into your Zoom account, and obviously the Zoom account has a limited memory, so you just have to keep an eye on how full your account's getting. Generally speaking, a 2 to 2.5 hour recording will use all of your space on your Zoom account if you've got a standard Pro account. Otherwise, you can record onto the computer. When you hit record, everybody in the meeting will get a warning that the meeting is being recorded. There is also an option during recording to pause and restart, or just to stop the recording altogether. Okay, so probably then on to the next most useful feature, which is your share screen. What I'm just going to do before we do that is to quickly just launch a PowerPoint, so we've got something to share. When sharing screen, if you're using a PowerPoint, what can just make things look a little bit more professional is if you launch the PowerPoint in advance, so that then students don't see the editing screen like this. They'll just go straight to the PowerPoint. So you can do that just by the usual way, starting your slideshow, and then to click back to your Zoom screen, hold down the Alt key on your keyboard, which is traditionally next to the space bar, hit the Tab key, and you'll see all of the open windows on your machine. So you can just tab across back to your Zoom meeting. And then when you're ready to share screen, click on Share Screen and select the screen that you want. So I want the active PowerPoint, which is this one. So I'll select that and click on Share. And there we go. It's always good practice just to check with your students that the screen is sharing. I normally ask them to give me a thumbs up, a visual thumbs up that the screen is sharing. Okay. Once you've got your screen sharing, you can control PowerPoint in the usual way. So you can just advance the slides. One of the nice features that you have within Zoom is annotations. So if we go up to the top here and click on More and drop that down, there's an option here to enable or disable annotations for others. I usually have that on disable all of the time until I want students to use it. So then I would normally go in to More and I'd click on Enable Annotations, which now allows my students to draw on this screen. Also, what I would probably have on is to have the names of the annotators visible. So I wouldn't tick on that one, which hides the names of annotators. Then I can see the names of the students that are annotating my screen. Click on the Annotate. This doesn't work on all types of tablets. Some tablets this doesn't always come up on. But if it does work for them, then they've got the option here to select things. They've got a text box. They can draw lines, create stamps, little ticks, crosses and hearts, spotlight things, erase things, choose the format of the color, font and line width, undo and redo, clear, and as a teacher I can also save as well. So typically I might ask students a question, perhaps especially with electronics. I can get diagrams up and ask them to annotate and point to things and highlight things, or I might get a student to say, okay, that's the thing that is most meaningful for me. Which do you believe is this? And they could choose to put a tick against something if they wanted to, like that. So annotations, don't try to avoid having them on when you don't want students to do this. When they've finished that, you can go to clear, and then you've got the option to clear all, clear your own, or clear the viewers. So I'm just going to clear all. Remember to save if there's anything on the screen that you need. Otherwise, clear all drawings, and then switch the annotation off again if you don't want students writing on your slides. So that's annotations. That's quite a nice little feature that is within Zoom to get responses up. So I'll just stop this share at this point here. Coming back to share screen again, some of the other options are whiteboard. Again, that's another nice little feature on whiteboard here. So it just gives you a plain blank whiteboard, which again, you can draw on, you can write on. You can add pictures to this, and students can add to this. You can either block students from doing that, or you can allow students to annotate on the whiteboard as well. So it can be a shared whiteboard, or it could just be a teacher controlled whiteboard. So another nice little feature on share screen. Looking at some of the other features, if you, this one is quite nice as well. If you're using a computer or a laptop and you also have an iPhone or an iPad, you can mirror your iPad to the screen. So I'll sometimes do that, perhaps if I'm using Nearpod or I want to see the people's faces on the screen. I can mirror my iPad or my iPhone to that. So that's just another nice little feature that's within Zoom. Going over to advanced. So I can do things here like share a portion of the screen, a view from a second camera if you're doing technical work. I can share sound only, so that's quite nice sometimes, and I like to start the class and have music playing while students are entering the room. I can have a piece of music playing. Another important, actually, I can share files as well here, although you can do that in chat probably more easily. Going back to basic again. A really important aspect here is to share sound. Here, make sure that that box is ticked. If you're using anything that's got video or anything that's got any audio content, make sure that the share sound box is ticked there. Otherwise, the video will play without any sound. Had that happen a few times. That's always quite embarrassing. So just make sure that that little box is ticked there. If I had breakout rooms open, there would also be an option here to share to breakout rooms, and I could tick that box, which meant whatever I'm sharing on the screen would go to all of the breakout rooms. So there we go. That's share screen. Close that one down. Also under share screen, you've got a little arrow there, which if you go to the advanced options there, it just allows you to select who can share. So at the moment, I'm allowing all of the students to share their screen. If it was just me, then I'd, again, if you've got issues around discipline and behaviour, then you might want to limit that to host only. Otherwise, I usually have all participants on. I don't really have any problems, I find. So if anybody else is sharing, I can override by saying that when I start sharing, it'll override anybody else who's sharing. So just a few control settings under share screen. Chat, great little function to get student responses. The main thing from a teacher's point of view is when you're responding, just check who you're responding to. So it defaults to everyone, but obviously I can send private messages to my students in here. So the students, the way I've got chat set up, and I will show you how to set chat up. I've got chat set so that the students cannot chat privately to each other. That's really important. Otherwise, they can be having side conversations going on during your lesson, and you do not know that this is happening. So that's really important to have that setting, and I'll show you later on in the video how to set that setting. But students have the option, the way I've got it set up, to chat to me privately or chat to everyone. They're the only two options they've got. So if students, if you're getting them to answer questions and they don't like other people in the group seeing their answers, then you can get them to send them to you privately. If they do send you a private message that needs a response, just remember to make sure that you are responding to that student and not to everyone. So just check who it's going to. So normally that would be just to everybody, and that's a good way of getting responses back from Q&A sessions that you might have in your class. So you can just send a message out to everybody in there, and that goes out to everyone. You can also send files out. So perhaps you've got some homework you want them to do, or an activity even in the class. Just click on the little box there, select where your file is. So this one's on a computer here. I'll just find quiz there, open that up. And there we go. You can see that now that Word document has appeared in chat, and students can access that document via chat, download it and work on it from their end. Students can also share their screen in breakout rooms. It's another nice feature. So if they open this document in a breakout room, one student could open, share it, and then they could work collaboratively on this document in breakout rooms. You can also put reactions into chat as well. So that's chat. Polls is another lovely little feature. Because I'm logged on 2 different devices, it won't function for me at the moment, but you could set them up in advance. It's multiple choice. You can either set it for one answer only or for multiple answers. So they're quick polls. I like to set these up in advance and then send them out to the students, but you can do them on the fly as well. But because I've logged in on 2 devices, it's actually disabled at the moment. But that's a lovely little feature, is a poll just to get quick reactions. It can be an exit ticket as well. Then I've got my participants here. When I click on the participants icon, I get the list of my participants up here so I can see who it is. Zoom automatically records this in analytics. So if you need to register, you can just go to reports after the meeting is finished, and it'll say who was in your meeting and how long they were in there for, when they joined and when they left. And that's all built into the reporting within Zoom. But if you want a quick check to the register, you can just look at participants here. This also allows you to mute and unmute participants, or if there should be any behavioural problems, you can also stop their video. You can also remove them from the meeting altogether, or you can put them in the waiting room. One thing just to watch out for there is not to click on the cross to close, because this closes down Zoom. That's another mistake I've made. To close the participant window down, it's the little icon there and close. Actually, while we've got that option, there's a quick option here down here to mute all. And you can allow them to unmute themselves or not. That's an option there. And yeah, there's a few other options there asking you to unmute or mute participants on entry. There's some of the main settings there for entering students. So we close this down just with a little down arrow and close there, and that's our participant list. Under security, these are some of the main settings that we've already got set to default. So they can be set in the main Zoom settings, but they can also be changed on the fly here. So I could lock the meeting if I want, if everybody's in and I don't want anybody else joining. I've got the waiting room on. I don't really need that anyway. You can see the enable room is actually enabled there. So yes, I'm allowing participants to share their screens. I'm allowing them to have access to chat. I'm allowing them to rename themselves. I'm allowing them to unmute themselves, and I'm allowing them to start the videos. So this is all the security settings, which are all defaults, but they can be changed on the fly during the meeting. The last 2 controls at the far end here are video and audio. Generally, you would only use this if you wanted to stop your video. So that stops your camera if you needed to chat to a colleague, or if you're working from home and somebody within your home comes to speak to you, or if you're having a break, you can just turn the video off and just click again to turn it on. There are settings in there, and this is also where if you wanted a virtual background, you would go to here as well. If you're working from home and you don't want people seeing into your house, you can choose a virtual background from there as well. And then the very end one is audio settings in there, which usually all the defaults work absolutely fine. The main thing you'd want that for really is if you wanted to mute yourself. You do get a reminder on the screen that you're muted, and you also get a reminder that you can hold the space bar down to speak temporarily, and then release the space bar and it'll go back onto mute again. Or to permanently unmute yourself, just click on the icon and you're back out again. So there we are. That's pretty much all of the settings, the main settings, primary settings that you need for teaching online in Zoom. The last thing I will just show you is the chat settings, which I do change the defaults on there. So I'm just going to end this meeting here now. I usually wait for all my participants to leave before I end the meeting. But here I'm just going to end the meeting now and end meeting for all. So that will then close the meeting down and remove everybody from the meeting. I then have a default setting to save chat, and this is the settings that we're going to look at now. So I instantly get this window open, and a little text file here has come up that has saved the chat. If I'd saved any annotation screens, this is where they would come up as well, either as images or PDFs, whichever I'd chosen. So we just go back into Zoom. So last thing then to look at is the chat settings, and on the home screen within Zoom, you need to go to the little settings icon here, and that will bring up quite a few settings, but not the ones that we want. So we need to click on this tiny little icon button down here, view more settings. And when we do that, it'll open a window in your default web browser. So for me, that's Google Chrome. We need to go to settings if it doesn't default to that, and then we need to go to in meeting basic settings. Scroll down just a little bit and you can see chat there. So now chat is on. So this little button here, this little switch, tells me that chat is on, and I've allowed participants to chat with everyone, and I've also allowed everyone to save chat. If you don't want that, you just switch it to host or co-host only can save chat. Now the next setting down for me, I think, is the most important one of all. Private chat I have switched off. So that now stops students from having private conversations with each other, sending private messages to each other. So I would strongly recommend that you go into settings and turn that off as your default setting. Zoom automatically defaults with that on, so you have to go in and switch that off within settings. This one I do have switched on, you can see there, which is to auto save chats, which is why I got that little text message come up at the end there. So I think that's pretty much about it. The last thing I could just say, once you've set your scheduled meetings up, when you do want to open them, you've got little icons along the top here. Go to meetings, and you'll find there is where you'll find all your scheduled meetings. Find the one that you want and click on the start icon. If you want to send the invitation out again, just click on copy invitation. That copies it to your clipboard, and then you can just paste that either into a learning platform or into an email in order to contact your students and invite them to the meeting. So there we go. That's it. I hope that's been useful to you. Good luck with using Zoom. It's a great application, probably the best application that there is out there for delivering teaching